I was never supposed to see that message. But one wrong screenshot changed everything. My family had a secret group chat, and they were planning to erase me from Grandma's will. Before I continue, hit subscribe and share this story because what happens next will make you question your own family's loyalty. I was sitting in my car outside Grandma's house when my cousin Jake accidentally sent a screenshot to the wrong group. It was titled Family Core Chat. I wasn't in it. My heart dropped when I saw the messages. My aunt wrote, "Grace doesn't need a share. She barely visits. We'll convince Mom she's just after the money." Then my sister replied, "Yeah, let's keep her out of the loop until everything's finalized." I stared at my phone, my hands shaking. I had spent every weekend with Grandma, driving her to appointments, cooking her favorite meals, paying for her meds when no one else bothered. And now, the same people who ignored her for years were planning to erase me completely. When I walked into the house, everyone went silent. Grandma smiled when she saw me, but I could feel the fake energy in the room. My aunt whispered something to my mom, and they both gave me that pitying look, the kind that says, "We've already decided your fate." At dinner, my cousin Jake looked guilty. He couldn't even make eye contact. My sister, on the other hand, was glowing, acting like she had already won something. I tried to stay calm, but inside my chest was burning. They didn't know I'd seen everything. Then Grandma mentioned she was updating her will next week. My aunt quickly interrupted, saying, "Don't worry, Mom. We'll handle everything for you. You've done enough." That was my breaking point. I excused myself to the bathroom, locked the door, and opened my notes app. I started writing everything: names, dates, screenshots. If they wanted a war over Grandma's love and legacy, they were about to get one. Because what they didn't know was that Grandma had already trusted me with something far more powerful than money, and I was about to remind them of it in a way they'd never forget. The next morning, I woke up to a group text from my mom. "Family meeting at Grandma's this Sunday. Be there on time. No explanation. No greeting. Just cold formality." I knew exactly what it was about. The final step of their plan to erase me from the will. When Sunday came, I dressed simply: jeans, a plain sweater, no makeup. I wanted them to think I was still the quiet, broke one they underestimated. But deep down, I was holding something they didn't know existed: Grandma's private letter to me. As soon as I walked in, I could feel the tension. My aunt, my mom, and my sister were sitting around the dining table with papers and folders spread out. Grandma wasn't there yet. My aunt smiled tightly and said, "Grace, we were just discussing some family matters. You probably won't need to be part of this one." I forced a smile. "Really?" "Because I'm pretty sure Grandma's will concerns everyone in this family." My sister rolled her eyes. "You're overreacting again. It's just about formalities. You know Grandma wants everything fair." Fair? That word almost made me laugh. Fair was not secretly cutting your granddaughter out of the will while pretending to love her on holidays. Then, Grandma slowly walked in with her cane. She looked frail, but her eyes were still sharp. Everyone went quiet. She sat down and said, "Let's start." My heart was racing. I noticed her hand tremble as she picked up the pen. My mom began talking sweetly. "Mom, we all agree the assets should be divided sensibly. Grace has her job. She's independent. It's only fair the rest goes to the ones who stayed closer." I clenched my fists under the table. The audacity. I was the one who stayed close. They only showed up when Grandma's bank account was mentioned. Grandma looked at each of them for a long second before saying softly, "You all think I don't see what's happening?" The room went still. My aunt's smile froze, my sister fidgeted, and my mom looked nervous. Then Grandma turned her eyes toward me. "Grace, dear, do you have something you'd like to say before I make my decision?" Every eye turned to me. My heart pounded like a drum. I reached into my purse, pulled out the folded paper, and said, "Actually, yes. I think everyone should hear what Grandma told me." Privately, their expressions shifted from arrogance to panic. They didn't know that letter held the truth about who Grandma really trusted, and what she'd already decided long before their little secret chat began. I unfolded the letter slowly, letting the paper tremble just enough to make them lean in. My sister scoffed. Grace, what is this? Another one of your dramatic scenes. My mom shot her a glare, but I could see the irritation behind her eyes too. They all wanted me quiet, compliant, invisible. I took a deep breath and started reading. My dearest Grace, if you're reading this, it means I've chosen to make things clear. You've been my strength when I had none. You never asked for anything, but gave me everything. No one else has done that. My decision about the will is final. You already know where to find the documents. Don't let anyone make you feel small for the kindness they could never give. When I finished, the silence in the room was suffocating. My aunt's smile vanished completely. My sister looked pale. My mom stammered, "Mom, you didn't mean that literally, right?" Grandma's voice was calm but sharp as glass. I meant every word. My sister tried to laugh it off. "Come on, Grandma. Grace is just twisting your words. You've always said we'd all share equally." Grandma's gaze hardened. "Share? You mean the way you shared that secret group chat planning to erase her?" The color drained from everyone's faces. My mom froze. My aunt's mouth fell open. And my sister whispered, "Wait, how do you know about that?" Grandma looked at me, a small smile tugging at her lips. "Because Grace showed me the messages the day she got them. I couldn't hold back anymore. You all thought I wouldn't fight back. You called me desperate, said I was only around for money. But while you were plotting, Grandma and I were signing legal papers together." My aunt slammed her hand on the table. "You tricked her. You manipulated her when she was sick." Grandma's voice cut through like thunder. "Enough! The only ones who manipulated me are sitting right here pretending to care." The room was dead silent again, except for the sound of my sister's breathing, shaky and uneven. I thought they'd back down, but then my mom leaned forward with a smirk that sent chills down my spine. "Well," she said slowly, "then I hope you're ready for what comes next, because we're not letting this go without a fight." I didn't know what she meant, but the look in her eyes told me this wasn't over. They were planning something bigger, and this time they were coming straight for me. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I replayed my mom's words. "We're not letting this go without a fight." It wasn't a threat. It was a promise. 2 days later, I got a call from Grandma's lawyer, Mr. Peterson. He sounded uneasy. "Grace, I just received a notice. Your mother and aunt are contesting the will. They're claiming undue influence, saying you pressured your grandmother to change it." I felt my stomach drop. They were actually doing it. I thought they'd back off after being exposed, but instead, they doubled down, painting me as the manipulator. I rushed to Grandma's house. She was sitting by the window, staring at her garden. When I told her about the legal notice, she sighed deeply and said, "I knew they wouldn't stop. They've always mistaken kindness for weakness." I held her hand. "Don't worry, Grandma. I'm not scared of them anymore." But inside I was terrified. They had money, connections, and decades of family manipulation on their side. I had nothing but the truth. The next week felt like war. My phone buzzed nonstop. Messages from relatives I hadn't spoken to in years, accusing me of taking advantage of an old woman. My sister even posted on Facebook, claiming I brainwashed Grandma. The comments were brutal. Some of my own cousins sided with her, but I didn't fight back publicly. Instead, I stayed silent, collecting every screenshot, every comment, every lie they posted, because I knew something they didn't. Grandma had left behind not just a letter, but video proof. A week before the will was updated, Grandma had recorded a message, one the family didn't know existed. It was stored in the lawyer's vault, time-stamped, dated, and notarized. So when the court date arrived, I walked in calm, even as my mom and aunt whispered behind my back. They smirked like they had already won. My sister avoided eye contact. Then Mr. Peterson stood and said, "Your Honor, before proceeding, I'd like to submit Exhibit A, a private message from the deceased, addressed to all heirs." The judge nodded. The courtroom went silent as the video began to play, and Grandma's face filled the screen. "Hello, my family," she said in her soft voice. "If you're watching this, I'm no longer here, but I know how quickly love can turn into greed. That's why I made my own decision, without pressure, without lies. I trust only one person with my legacy, Grace, my mom gasped. My aunt clutched her pearls. My sister whispered, "No way." And then Grandma said something none of us expected, words that would destroy every lie they had built. Grandma's voice grew firm, steady, almost regal. "Grace was the only one who stood by me when the rest of you disappeared. She paid my hospital bills when no one offered a cent. She spent holidays with me when this house was empty. You may call it manipulation. I call it love. My assets, my home, and my trust go entirely to her. And if anyone contests this decision, you'll forfeit your share of the family trust immediately." The courtroom went dead silent. The lawyer paused the video. For a moment, all you could hear was the faint buzz of the air conditioner and my mom's shaky breathing. My aunt's face turned red. This can't be real." "You forged it," she shouted. The judge leaned forward, calm but stern. "Mrs. Anderson, this recording was verified by a notary and backed by medical confirmation of your mother's mental clarity at the time. It's legitimate." My mom looked at me, eyes full of fury and disbelief. "You turned her against us." I met her gaze and said quietly, "No, you did that yourselves." When we left the courtroom, reporters were waiting outside. My sister tried to hide her face, but the story spread fast. Within days, everyone knew the truth. The greedy granddaughter was actually the one who cared all along. I moved into Grandma's house a month later. It was quiet, peaceful, almost too peaceful after the chaos. But one evening, as I unpacked the last box, I found another letter tucked inside Grandma's old recipe book. "Grace, I knew they'd come for you, but I also knew you'd stand your ground. This home, this legacy, it's yours not because of money, but because you loved me when it wasn't profitable to do so. Promise me one thing. Build a life where no one can erase you again." I smiled through tears. For years they called me invisible, weak, and naive. But that invisibility had been my armor. It let me build quietly, love honestly, and win completely. Now, the same family who tried to erase me from Grandma's will had to live knowing I held not just her inheritance, but her respect, her trust, and her name. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't the forgotten one in the family. I was the one who rewrote the story they tried to bury.